All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my workshop. This is the fourth IELTS workshop here, and this is Dr. Chris Kwan. For some of you who came to my previous workshop, I'm actually a recent graduate from Hong Kong U, and I do research into applied linguistics. And today, I'm going to give you another workshop on IELTS Writing Task 1, which is a task asking you to write an information report. And today's focus, unlike the previous workshop, in the previous workshop, I talked about coherence and cohesion and how um, a coherent and cohesive piece of writing can contribute to idea elaboration. But this time, the focus is different. I, although this time, I also focus on writing. The focus of today's workshop will be on grammar and vocabulary. That is, the language features that you need to show to your assessors in your IELTS writing task. This time, let me talk about task 1 first. If you're interested in my workshop, you can register. Actually, there is another one next Tuesday, and you can. If you're interested in knowing more about task 2, you can register for that too. Okay, but anyway, let's just focus more on task 1 today. Okay, just to show you the schedule of the workshops, and this is the fourth one. And after talking about tasks 1 and 2, I will also have a speaking workshop and a grammar workshop. And for today's workshop, I hope that by the end of this workshop, you will be able to achieve 2 intended learning outcomes. Number 1, I hope you will be able to identify the essential grammatical and lexical items needed for IELTS Writing Task 1 information report. I will talk about this in greater detail in relation to the grammar and vocabulary that you need. You need to show your assessors in your information report for your IELTS Task 1. And number 2, I hope that we'll have time for you to practice writing one. Practice writing one sample information report using the grammar and vocabulary items that we have covered today. So these are the 2 intended learning outcomes that I would like you to, or I hope you will be able to achieve by the end of today's workshop. Okay. Yes. Okay. This is the how I'm going to structure today's workshop. I will give you some background information about what you need to bear in mind when you're tackling task 1 information reports. And then in the second part of the workshop, I will focus more on the language of the information reports from the introduction, the body paragraphs, and to the overview, or what some people call a summary. And then there are 4 task types in IELTS Writing Task 1, and I will go through each type of task and the typical language features that you will need in order to tackle each task type. And then I hope you will have time to have a practice on writing a sample information report. And then I will wrap up today's session by giving you some personal tips and some suggested post-workshop activities. Okay, let me begin by giving you some background information about what you need to bear in mind for your information report in IELTS Task 1. There are some pieces of information that you need to know. This is an information transfer task. What does it mean by information transfer? That is, you are given some data in the form of visuals, like diagrams, maps, or tables or some charts and graphs. You are given some data to start with, and then you need to study the data and report them. Report the data in your information report. Why do I have to stress this point? That's because an information transfer task, well, in the context of IELTS Task 1, does not require you to add additional information from your own knowledge or from your opinion, unlike Task 2. Task 2 is about your own opinion, but for Task 1, this is simply an information transfer task. That is, you report what you can observe, what you can see from the visuals to the information report within the given time. And you have 20 well, altogether you have an hour for your IELTS writing test, an hour, 60 minutes. But you have to handle two tasks. So what I would suggest is that you spend 20 minutes on task 1 only, 20 minutes only, and then the other 40 minutes on task 2. Because task 2 carries more marks than task 1. So task 2 is more important than task 1. But if you want to get a good grade or get a good score for your IELTS writing, it is necessary to master the skills for both tasks. And for task 1, actually, it doesn't require you to write a very lengthy piece of text. It only requires you to write around 150 words. So it's not a very long piece of writing. You just need to report the main or the key features, the key trends that you can see or you can observe from the visuals given onto the answer sheet. So as I've said, the data can be quantitative or qualitative. What do I mean by that? Quantitative data would be something like a table or a chart or a graph. There are always numbers accompanying the data. So you need to observe, you need to study the visuals and the numbers as well. And then you report them accurately in your information report. Sometimes people pay to people who are preparing for the IELTS exam tend to pay too much attention on the quantitative side. But mind you, in IELTS Writing Task 1, it is possible that some qualitative data will appear. Qualitative data, actually, I mean a map or a diagram that you need to describe to your examiner. I will show you more examples of quantitative and qualitative data in the later slides. But here is a sample question that you may see in the IELTS writing exam. Usually there is an instruction. There is an instruction at the top, and then there is a visual at the bottom of the page. Let me just call this part as a task prompt. By task prompt, actually, I mean some instructions. They will tell you what the diagram is and what you need to do in your information report. And then the visual is, of course, very important because the main job of your information report is to describe the visual in an accurate and organized manner. So let me conclude. Actually, in the IELTS writing exam, for task 1, you see two parts, the task prompt and the visual. I will tell you in a minute what you need to do with the task prompt and the visual. Okay, then you may ask me a question. How should I structure or organize an information report? Let me begin by giving you some background information about this text type. Why do we have to write an information report? That's because we want to report, give readers some factual information about a study or a process or a change. And what exactly you have to report in your information report would depend on the visuals given in the instruction. So, as I've said before, you don't have to add something new, but all the content that you need for your information report should come from the visual, not from your own knowledge or from somewhere else. Um, in the context of the IELTS exam, actually, you don't have to show a very sophisticated text structure. The diagram here that I'm showing you will be sufficient. Usually, we begin with an introduction, and then some body paragraphs, and then we conclude our information report with an overview or summary. And notice that there are two overview summary here, right? So you may wonder why I'm doing this. That's because you have a choice. You can either put the overview or summary immediately after the introduction, and then you have your body paragraph. Or you have the introduction first, and then you have the body paragraph, and you conclude your information report with an overview or summary. There are two choices, and the choice is yours. But the key thing is you must include an overview or summary. Otherwise, you can't get band 5 or above for this writing task. An overview or summary is very important, very, very important. Otherwise, you can't get band 5 or above. So make sure you do have one, either immediately after the introduction or after your body paragraphs as a conclusion, as a mini conclusion. What's the difference between an overview and body paragraphs? In an overview, you only report one thing, one overarching feature or trend. Don't go into details. You go into details in the body paragraphs. So that's why I've highlighted here. In the body paragraphs, you point out or describe the key features and trends. But in this overview or summary, you tell me what is the overarching trend or feature. Okay, maybe you can have key feature 1, key feature 2, key feature 3. Okay, maybe you are reporting 3 key features in your IELTS exam, but which one is but what is the similarity? What is the differences? What is in common among the 3 key features that you have described? You told me about this in your overview or summary. But let me alert you again, you must have a summary or an overview. Otherwise, you lose a lot of marks in your IELTS Task 1 exam. Okay, at the beginning of the workshop, actually, I mentioned that there are 4 types of tasks in IELTS Writing Task 1. You may be told to describe a chart, a graph, or a table. Okay, these 2 are more quantitative. Or you may be told to describe some qualitative data like a diagram or a map. So if you don't have any questions about the basic information about IELTS Writing Task 1, then I'll move on to talk more about the language that you need to demonstrate to your examiners. Okay, let me begin with the introduction. The introduction of your report is very important because this is the very first thing that your examiner will see in your IELTS writing. And if you take a look at the reference books in the market, or if you watch the advice videos on YouTube, actually we all suggest people doing two things, two must do's here. Number one, can you guess what do we have to do with the task prompt? Read and analyze. Yes, this is very important. We need to read and we need to read the task prompt and analyze what we have to do here. Uh, Actually, there is one more step that we need to do. That is but it's very important to read and analyze the task prompt because we don't want to write something that is not on the right track, right? We don't want to produce something that is off topic, right? So we need to study the task prompt carefully, and then we do one thing. Paraphrase the task prompt. What do I mean by paraphrase the task prompts? The word paraphrase means you use your own words. Use your own words to tell the reader what the task or what the visual is about. By means of paraphrasing, you are not using exact wording provided provided in the instruction. We don't have to paraphrase every word in the introduction, but try not to repeat the same word used in the introduction. There are some tips that I can share with you if you want to do if you want to do the paraphrasing successfully. Number one, we can use synonyms, right? Use words that have a similar meaning. Like for example, if the task uses the term like technology, right? If you see the word technology in the task prompt, then in your introduction, maybe other than the word technology, we can use some other words that have similar meanings, like uh, um, like information and communication technology, or some words that are related to technology, like computers or the internet. Actually, it depends on the task what you are told to do. But using synonym is just one of the strategies. You can use other sentence structures. Word classes. Word classes means part of speech, right? Like changing a noun into a verb or an adjective into um or an or we change an adjective into a noun. Usually you see more instances of what we call nominalization in the introduction. That is, we change verbs and adjectives into nouns. We can also think about the word orders, right? The word orders. Like sometimes in the introduction, there will be phrases like the x of y, like the length of your writing. Or I actually have an example in the power that I've shown you in the PowerPoint slide. I used task types, right? We can say the type of tasks, the x of y. But sometimes the phrase, which has 4 words, can be quite clumsy to read. So I shortened it. I shortened the phrase, the type of tasks, into task-types, task types, and that's how I play with word orders, so that I can present my words in a more concise manner. Okay. In your introduction, actually, you paraphrase the task prompt first. Okay, here you can see there are 2 paragraphs here. Ignore the second one because it's always the same. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. This is applicable to all writing tasks in task one. So you can safely ignore this and just focus on the first part of the task prompt. Like the bar chart below shows the percentage of Australian men and women, blah, blah, blah. Focus on paraphrasing this part. Other than paraphrasing, we can't ignore the visual here. Give an overview of the visual. Tell the reader what the visual is and what it is roughly about. But again, you don't have to go into detail. So two must-dos here, paraphrasing and giving an overview of the visual. Let me show you an example to help you understand how we can paraphrase the task prompt. Okay, have a look at this. The table below shows the cinema viewing figures for films by country in millions. Okay, so now the visual, this time is a table, right? It's a table. And then you're given the task prompt telling you what the table is about. It's about the number of cinema audiences, okay, in 4 countries within a period. But the period isn't, although the period isn't specified here. So how can we paraphrase this task prompt? You can see I'm using basically two colors to denote the changes that I've made in my introduction. So let's have a look at the text, at the words in blue first. Okay, you can see the task in the task prompt. It uses the word shows. But to avoid repeating the same word, in my introduction, I use compares. Change shows to compares. And then in the task prompt, I used the word figures, right? And then in my introduction, I used the word number. I used number to replace the word figure in the task prompt. And I do the same for films. For films in the task prompt, this time I used a compound noun, movie genres. That means types of movies, movie genres, in order not to repeat the same word films all the time. And one more thing, cinema viewing, okay. And this time I've changed viewing, which is a present participle, to the noun form viewers. I think I haven't used the word viewers here, but I will show you an example of the use of the word viewers here. But the principle is that I try to use the word audiences here in order to paraphrase the word cinema viewing figures, cinema viewing. So this is how I can do the paraphrasing by using synonyms and working on word classes, or what some people call parts of speech. But you can see in my version of the introduction, I have some words highlighted in yellow. Why? That's because I need to be more specific to the examiner. So if you have a chance to read the examiner's report, there are some sample scripts available, or some sample scripts prepared by the British Council or by the official IELTS organization in order to tell the public about what their expectations are. There are some examiner's comments in relation to the sample script, And in one of the examiner's comments that I read from these IELTS official IELTS materials, actually, IELTS examiners would expect test takers to be more specific in their introduction by pointing out, okay, so for example, if you simply say this table um, compares the number of cinema audiences, that could be too general, too general. I know it's a table about cinema audiences, but can you give me some more specific information about the table? Then, um, as you can see here, I've done well. I've done one thing. That is, I've studied um, the column here. I know that this table actually compares four countries. I also look at the row here. I know that this table is a comparison of different of four types of movie genres. So I incorporated these two pieces of information in my introduction. And the words highlighted in yellow actually show you how I incorporated the two pieces of information from the table in my introduction in order for me to produce a more specific introduction. And this is actually what the IELTS examiners are looking for. But if you're worried about the wording of the introduction, actually, I've prepared this slide for you just in case you are not really confident with the introduction. I would suggest this formula for your introduction. You can begin with the definite article there, and then you point out the type of visual. The type of visual means something like whether it's a chart, a graph, a table, or diagram, or a map. And then you tell me you use the verb to tell me what the visual is doing. Say, for example, the table shows blah blah blah. The table or the map compares. The map describes blah blah blah. And in the last part of this formula, you give me a short description of the visual. Okay, and you tell me like the example I've shown you. You give a short description about the what the visual is. As you can see from my example, actually for the whole introduction, one sentence will do. It doesn't have to be very lengthy. So this table is just for your reference in case you are not very confident about the word choices in the introduction. Okay. Maybe we'll skip this activity at the moment. We'll do it together with activity 2. Maybe let me talk about after the introduction. Let me talk about the overview now. As I've emphasized a number of times at the beginning of the workshop, actually you must have an overview. Otherwise, you lose marks. Then what do we have to do in an overview? I said you need to tell me about the overarching trend. Okay, you may have a number of key features identified in your information report, but you need to tell me what is the most important one, or what overarching feature or trend that you can observe based on the key features. Then what vocabulary or grammar items can we use to signal or to tell the readers that, this is the overview. I have written an overview. Okay, so you must give me marks. I would suggest that you can use these words, right? Can you take a look at the words in blue? Mm-hmm. Can you think of a word or a term that we can refer to for the words in blue? Conclusion word. Oh, yes. Yes, that's a good word. These words signal the conclusion, right? So we can have words like to conclude, in conclusion, or as in some grammar books, they will use the term linking words, right? Linking words, Linking, linking words, right? Or some sort of signposts, signpost, signposts to tell the examiner that, this is the overview. I've written it. Okay, so give me marks. Then what about the words in red? It can be clearly seen that. Here I would like to ask you a question. If we delete, it can be it can clearly be seen that if we delete the words in red, actually the whole sentence still makes sense, right? We can simply say, let me take this as an example. Overall, the total numbers of people employed have increased over the period. Then the whole sentence still makes sense, right? It's still grammatical. Then why do we have to keep the words in red? Mhm. Okay, very good. It's stronger when it comes to showing the conclusion. Thank you. Yes, these words are actually not redundant. We can use, well, of course, you can leave these words, but you can add these words in order to tell the reader that, okay, this is the conclusion. Or let me put it this way. Actually, these words the words highlighted in red here, can keep the tone stronger, right? This is actually a matter of emphasis. We keep the tone stronger. Okay, it is clear that, it is clear from the diagram that blah, 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 blah. But of course, actually, it's up to you whether you want to keep the words in red. Okay, it's your choice. But if you have decided to keep them, actually there is an additional meaning that you are emphasizing. You are making emphasis. You are emphasizing to the reader that, okay, this is a key feature that I can observe from the visuals given. I also have some suggested phrases for you to use in your overview. Let me see. Maybe in a few slides later. Actually, I also have some other words that you can use for your overview. But let me give you an example. The gray part here is the introduction you have seen. So we focus on this. We focus on the red and the yellow part. Okay, in general, action movies were the most popular among the viewers. Um, this is one of the key features that I can observe from the table. I'm using the red color here because this part corresponds to the table here. This part of the table here. I can see that action movies are the most popular among the four types. So I incorporated this into my overview. And then this yellow part actually corresponds to the information here in the table. I can also see that in India, there were more cinema goers. So I incorporated this piece of information in the overview. So again, an overview doesn't have to be very long. Just one sentence will do. One sentence will do, but you point out the most important or the overarching feature. And again, you can see I play with synonyms by changing the word cinema audiences. I used the word audiences in my introduction, right? So this time I use viewers. So the word viewers is here in the overview. And also I change viewers to goers in the subsequent part of the sentence. So this is how I use synonyms in my introduction and the overview in order to show my examiner that I know a variety of vocabulary. Then this can help you score higher in the domain of lexical resources. Okay, actually, I have a, I'm not sure if you want to practice writing the whole piece of writing. I mean the three part. I mean the whole text once, or you prefer to practice bit by bit. The whole. Okay, I will try to leave some time at the end of the workshop so that you can practice writing the whole piece of writing. But if you don't have time over the workshop, you can draft your text, send me for feedback. I'll reply to you by next week. Okay, let's hope that we'll have some time for this. If not, then you can leave this as your post workshop homework. Okay, I've talked about the introduction. I've also talked about the overview. Then now, let's move on to the most important part of your information report. That is your body paragraphs. I'm using this diagram to help you with the structuring of your body paragraph. It doesn't have to be very complicated, but at least the basic structure should be here, like the topic sentence and also the supporting sentences. In my workshop last week, actually, I mentioned that in a paragraph, in a body paragraph, actually, there should be a topic sentence appearing at the first in the first sentence of your paragraph, and this topic sentence has to tell the reader the key feature or trend that you can observe from your visual. Then, in your supporting sentences, you give me evidence. Show me evidence from either statistics or from the picture, in order to convince me of your key feature or key trend that you have identified. So let me reiterate this point once again. The whole task one is actually evidence-based. What do I mean by evidence-based? You just need to transfer the information presented in the visual to your answer sheet. It is not a good idea to tell me something additional or something that we cannot see from the figure. No, don't do that, because because all the content of your information report should come from the visual. So this is what I would suggest. Usually, you have body, well, or not really usually, it is a must that you have body paragraph. You divide your work into body paragraphs. And in a body paragraph, we only focus on one key feature or trend. Okay, so one key feature, one trend, one body paragraph. Then you may ask me a question. How many key features or key trends should I include in the information report? I would suggest 2 to 3. Don't be too ambitious, because you won't have enough time, you won't have enough words to cover everything in the visual. So you may need to be selective by pointing out the most important thing that you can observe on the visual. Uh, some people some people suggest to including 4 key trends or key features, but as you can see here, I put this point into a question mark, because I wonder if you can really talk about 4 key features or key trends in your information report. 2 to 3 may be pretty enough. 4 may be too many, and you won't have enough time to manage to cover the 4 features or trends. And in your supporting sentences, you group together bits of data that support each key feature or trend. This is a test of your organizational skills, and that means you find after you have identified one key feature or one key trend, you provide maybe two pieces of evidence from the table in order to elaborate or describe the key feature or the key trend. Okay. Do not mention any data in the topic sentence. And again, because it's basically just a topic sentence. It's more important to tell me the key feature or trend in a topic sentence, and you leave the specific details in your supporting sentences. So you won't have a very long or lengthy topic sentences. A topic sentence should be eye-catching and easy to understand for your reader. Okay, then how should we construct a body paragraph? Here comes an example. As you can see, actually, here are two sentences. In the first sentence, I pointed out the key trend. Okay, based on the table, I can see that not many people like watching horror movies, and this is the key trend. And in the rest of the paragraph, I provide statistical evidence. Well, that's basically statistics that you can see or you can find from the table given. For topic, here are some suggested phrases for your topic sentences, right? This is just for your reference. What I would like to suggest is that you try to apply them in your writing. It may not be a good idea to memorize or to recite all these by heart. But each time you do an exercise, you do a practice exercise, you can refer to the slide and try to select just one or two of these suggested sentence structures to practice and to apply in your writing. Okay, now this is the most important part of the workshop because I'm going to show you. Remember, I talk about 4 different types of tasks in the IELTS Writing Task 1 exam, right? 4 different task types, and I'm going to illustrate, tell you what key language features you have to demonstrate for each different types of tasks. Let me begin by talking about graphs or charts. There are basically 3 types in the IELTS exam: bar charts or bar graphs, pie charts or line graphs. I mean, in terms of format, they are different, but they are pointing out some sorry, but they are pointing out some okay, good. Some numbers or statistics about a phenomenon. So make sure you have because there are for pie charts there are numbers, right? As you can see, there are numbers, right? Make sure you include numbers in your information report. But what language can we use to talk about numbers? That's the point, or that's the thing that I'm going to show you now. You can I can send you this the whole PowerPoint. If you want to refer to the color codes, I'm using different colors to refer to different types of grammar and vocabulary that you need to use. So I hope it will find it easier to know to help you understand that okay in a sample I'll information report, actually we use different types of language to construct or to convey our meaning. Okay. Now I'm describing a chart on fitness membership. The chart is shown here. Okay. So after studying this is a bar chart, right? Or some people will call it a bar graph. Okay. After studying the bar chart, I've written 2 paragraphs here. Notice how I use different types of grammar and vocabulary items. Let me begin by talking about the most important one. Can you see the word in green or sometimes light green? Okay. Maybe we talk about this first. Greater, greater, lower, and then lowest twice, lowest. These are, how do we call them? Comparison. Yes, very good that you know they will compare. These are examples of language of comparison. Yes, we do have a term language of comparison. We use language of comparison in bar charts or graphs to describe the numbers in the bar chart. Language of comparison, or let me be more specific. These are actually comparative adjectives. I mean adjectives ending in er, right? And for this one, lowest, this is actually an example of superlative adjectives, ending in est, right? We use comparative and superlative adjectives when we want to compare uh, different items. I think you learned these in your secondary schools, right? So if you are not sure about how we can use comparative and superlative adjectives, it would be a good idea to refer to some grammar books like practical English usage. So we can use adjectives to make some comparisons, but it's are adjectives or okay different adjectives the only resource that we can use to describe a bar chart? Of course not. We need to include some other means of description. Like for example, fluctuations here. Fluctuations here. This is a noun, um not an adjective. Fluctuations, peaks, right? Other than nouns, we also have verbs: reached, doubled, fluctuated, um, or the. So these are some verbs, nouns and verbs that we can use in addition to adjectives in order to describe the numbers. Okay, describe numbers in a bar chart. Okay, we have language of comparison. Then what about the words in red here? Sorry? Year. Yes, year. Time period. Very good. Time period. Yes. Why do we have to include these what we call time markers or or some words that tell reader the time period? If you look at the bar chart here, there are different years you have to report, right? Maybe in 1970, this is the trend, but in the year 2000, that's another story. So you have to be able to describe the bar chart, the trends in the bar chart using different, not just by using different language of comparisons, but also you have to signal to your reader very clearly which year or which period you are talking about, right? So the words in purple are clearly statistics, right? Numbers that I can observe from the bar chart. Because I need remember what I talk about evidence, right? We have to provide the relevant statistics in our information report in order to serve as a piece of confidence to convince our readers. So let me show you another example this time using pie chart, right? You can see well, there are two pie charts here. This is quite typical in the IELTS Writing Task 1 because one of the purposes of Writing Task 1 is to assess your ability to compare two charts, compare two visuals. Then to do this well, you have to study each one very closely. Okay, this time it's about actually the two pie charts are about expenditures. How much people spend on each of these domains, like food, healthcare, housing, and transport, right? And these two pie charts compare Japan and Malaysia. So this is a sample paragraph. As you can see, there are words highlighted in green, showing you some language of comparison, um, including um, you know um, adjectives, comparative adjectives, superlative adjectives, right? Uh, you can also see some figures reported. Okay, you can refer to the words in purple here. But you may wonder, these words are highlighted in yellow. Why? Um, as I've written here, actually, we use pie charts to show because pie charts usually uh, has have figures, right? There are figures, as I've mentioned before. Usually, you can see figures, numbers in a pie chart, and you need to report this to your examiner too. To do this, we use the percentage of something or the proportion of something. And the words highlighted in yellow are actually examples to show you how we can apply these two phrases in a sample paragraph. Like the greatest proportion of expenditure, or look at the bottom, the smallest percentage of something. Other than the percentage of the proportion of blah, 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 you can use of the total here, of the total, something came in second place or came in third place. You can also use compared with to signal to your reader that actually you are making a comparison between two numbers. So this is how we can deal with statistics. We can use words. We can also use words like account for, um, account or accounted for, like this one. In Japan, housing accounted for just 21% of the total, accounted for, right? Or compared with. So for single or double line graphs, how can we deal with graphs in general? Okay, this is an example of a double line graph. A single line graph will be in a single line graph, you will only see one line. But here, in a single line graph, you can see two lines here. Actually, the graph here is comparing male and female smokers in Flowerland. Okay, so you can see two lines here because this graph actually compares two groups of people, men and women, or male and female smokers. How can we do this? Okay, you can study the graph, the line graph here, and you can identify three basic trends. Usually there are three basic trends: rise, level, and fall. So here comes a sample paragraph. This line graph shows the rise and fall of the occurrences of disease X in Flowerland. This time it's not about smokers, it's about the occurrences or the number of cases of a kind of disease, right? So after this topic sentence, there are elaborations or supporting sentences. Basically, you can see I'm using pieces of evidence from the line graph. Again, you can see the language of comparison here. gradual increase, steeper increase, dramatically, rapidly, completely. Other than nouns, verbs, or adjectives that I've shown you, actually we can also use adverbs. By adverbs, actually I mean words ending in ly. Adverbs like dramatically or completely, right? To show the degree of change. Show, the language of comparison is actually a main feature of this type of writing. If we are told to describe charts and graphs, other than uh, time markers or the language of comparison, this time you can see some words. You can see two words highlighted in blue, right? Initially, blah blah blah. Following, blah blah blah. What is the function of these words? Initially and following something. Connection was very good use of the word connection. Uh, Remember that we need to connect ideas very well in writing, right? These words are actually are actually making connections. These are actually words signaling the sequence of ideas. The sequence of ideas. Or we connect two sentences together smoothly. Remember, although this is not the focus of this session, coherence and cohesion is also one of the assessment criteria for IELTS Writing Task 1. So bear in mind, um, you have to produce ideas which are well connected. And here, the use of initially and following are two good examples. Okay, just to show you okay, one more example. One more example using this time using a double line graph about the population in India and China. Okay, I think you're by now you should be very familiar with the types of language features that we need to show in when we are describing charts and graphs, right? And these are language of comparisons through adjectives and verbs. And we use time markers. We use and we use uh, words to report statistics. Make sure you know how to spell words like million or billion. But you don't worry; these words are usually given in the graph, right? So just to make sure you get the spelling correct. Okay, and here I have a sample. I have a sample script taken from the official IELTS writing material. Let me show you the handout that we are going to use now. Can you bear with me for a few seconds? Um, hmm, okay. Okay, do you have this set of handout? Oh, by the way, Teresa, do you have this set of handout? Okay. Uh, Okay, now I'm using this set of handout to show you some samples, including the candidates writing and also the examiner comments. And these materials were taken from the official IELTS materials, so they are they should be quite reliable. Oh, good. Okay, thank you, Teresa. Thank you. So this is the sample that I would like to show you. This is a line graph, right? It's a bit dated, but this since it appears in the sample writing materials, I'm using it to illustrate to show you how we can apply the language features that we have covered in an authentic IELTS writing task. Okay, this line graph actually compares radio and television audiences. And this is what the candidate produced. You can see there are some grammar and vocabulary mistakes, and you can see some spelling mistakes, or you can also find some um, some weaknesses in terms of content, but ignore them because today's session will only focus on the use of typical language features in writing. You can see here, I've made some annotations to show you what features the candidate is using. You can see you can see some language of comparisons, gradually rises, maintain the same, as a slight fall. These are some examples of language of comparison, right? You can also see some what we call time markers in early morning at 8 a.m. for the next 2 hours. Why are we using these time markers? That's because, look at the graph again. It actually reports the number of audiences in relation to different time period. We are using time markers for this reason in order to make it clear which time period we are referring to. Yes. From the words highlighted in purple, you can see some reporting of statistics using the word percent. And you can use the symbol or you spell the word percent. Both are fine, actually. You can also see what we call some words that we use to make connections, like after, and after. Of course, there are some more variations, right? Other than the word after, we can use others. Actually, the whole piece of writing scored a band 7, and I attached the examiner comments for you to read later, right? Of course, there are some strengths and weaknesses, and to be honest, actually, in the examiner comments, actually, uh, actually, the examiner also pointed out some users' words. Although there is indeed a variety of structures and vocabulary. So bear in mind that these samples are not perfect. These samples are here just for you to know, to have a better idea of what if you want to get a band 7 or above, what you have to the level of performance that you have to demonstrate to your examiner. So let me go back. I also have 3 samples here, but let me go back to the PowerPoint first. Okay, I've talked so much about describing charts and graphs. Let me move on briefly to talk about tables. I wouldn't spend a lot of time talking about how to describe tables here because the kind of language features that you have to demonstrate are basically the same, or roughly similar. Above all, you are given some statistics to report. And let me use this visual cinema viewing figures again to show you how we can apply the language features. Again, just a reminder that we need to be selective, right? We can't report everything in the table, so we need to find the most important or the most interesting features to talk about. We can look at the vertical and the horizontal headings to help you study the table more efficiently. because we only have 20 minutes for this task, right? Okay, here comes a sample paragraph. Again, you can just to remind you that we can use language of description or comparison, like more popular. Popular. We use the adjective popular and the word more to describe and compare. Well, at the same time, to describe and compare a piece of evidence using more and the word popular. Yes. Okay. Okay. So you can see from this paragraph that actually the range of language features are more or less similar to what you can see from in the slides that when we talk about how to describe charts and graphs. So let me conclude this part by talking. Let me conclude this part. I mean, how to describe charts, graphs, and tables by giving you some suggestive wording that we can use. Okay, we can use nouns and verbs, and then adjectives and adverbs to refer to trends, because it's not realistic, or it's actually quite or it actually takes time to go over each of these vocabulary items. This is not possible in this workshop. So I'm using a table to show you some suggestive wording that you may try to apply in your IELTS writing when you are referring to charts, graphs, or tables. Mind you, there's some nouns here. Some of the words here can serve as a noun or a verb at the same time. For example, the word increase, increase, increase can be a verb or can be a noun here, pronouncing as increase, right? But of course, we need to show a variety of vocabulary in IELTS writing, right? So we can use the word increase or increase all the time. We need to think of alternatives, and this table will show some suggestive wording. You can also visit this website for more detailed information about how we can use about some of the words here. This website actually gives you more detail about some of the words here, like what I have mentioned, and the difference between increase and increase, right? With one serving as a verb and the other ones as a noun. I'm also showing some suggested time markers. As you have seen from the samples, there are a number of times that we need to use time markers to refer to different time periods in the visuals, right? So you may consider using these wording to help you refer to time period in your information report. You can also on the right of the slide, actually you can see a column called hedges. Hedges are words. If you have taken some academic writing courses, usually your academic writing teacher will tell you, okay, in academic writing, we need to use hedges, words that we don't want to we use to avoid being too certain about something, right? Hedge other than modals, modal verbs like may, can, or should. There are some lexical hedges that we can use in the information report. Like for example, about about 90%. If you have to, how do we use hedges? For example, if we are reporting a piece of statistic of 88% or 89%. If we don't want to say exactly 88 or 89%, we can use about or approximately 90% of something. So I'm showing you a list of suggested wording on nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, time markers, and hedges to show you how we can use these words to describe charts, graphs, and tables. And you can apply, you can try to apply them in your practice writing. So maybe we can take a 5-minute break now, and then we'll resume after 5 minutes. By the way, Teresa, if you have questions or if you're not clear about the things that I have talked about in the first half of the workshop, feel free to stop me because we don't have a lot of participants here. You can feel free to stop me and ask questions. Okay, so let us continue. In the first half of the workshop, actually, I talk about the language features that you need to demonstrate in your description of a chart or graph or table. As I've mentioned right at the beginning of the workshop, sometimes in the IELTS exam, there is a chance that you are given something qualitative in order to report in your information report, right? So how can we describe something that is qualitative in nature? This is the focus of the second half of the workshop. I will begin by talking about how to describe a diagram. I will talk more about maps later. Okay, after finishing the part on diagrams. Okay, in the IELTS exam, it is likely that you will see a flowchart or a life cycle. A flowchart is something that shows you how something is produced, through a number of steps here. And a life cycle will show you how something begins and ends, starting from its birth. The way the flowcharts and life cycles share one similarity. That is, these types of diagrams are showing you one thing. That is, some mechanical and natural processes that you have to outline and describe in your information report. Then how can we describe processes in an information report? Have a look at this. Okay. I have a sample showing you how we can describe a process. I will show you that sample in a minute, but here, maybe let me give you a few pieces of reminder. Okay, a few reminder. Okay, in your information report, it's important to provide an overview. This time is not an overview of the overarching trend or features, but an overview of the number of stages involved. Okay, in your overview, you do two things. Number one, tell me about the number of stages involved in the process, number of stages involved in the process. Okay, maybe 5, maybe 6, or maybe 7. But it is not good enough to just tell me that, okay, there are 5 steps involved in the diagram, in the process. That's not specific. If you have a chance to read the examiner's report, actually, I've also attached the examiner comments in the set of handouts that you have seen. The examiner also recommends that the examiner also recommends candidates to report to name the stages, to tell readers the number, not just to tell the readers the number of stages, but also to name the stages. So what your overview should be something like this: 7 stages involved in the process of blah blah blah. A, B, C, D, or E, and E. Okay, So you need to, what I mean is you need to be more specific in your overview by doing two things. Number one, tell me the number of the stages. And number two, try to summarize the key stages. And in this time in your if you encounter this question type in the IELTS writing exam, it is important that you describe you have your information report should cover the whole process. Okay, do not miss any details in it. Otherwise, you lose marks. So give a more specific overview and describe the whole process. Sometimes there is a trick in this type of diagrams. That is, some stages can be concurrent. That means they happen together. They occur together at the same time. They occur at the same time. Some steps can be alternative. That is, after A, you will have either step B or step C. So in your diagram, make sure you also make it clear whether some steps are concurrent or alternative. Let me show you an example of how to describe a diagram. Okay, using this as in this visual. This is actually a diagram showing you the process of milk production, how to produce milk. Okay, as you can see, this time down, there is there are two alternative steps here. If you look at this, okay, the milk, milk can either be made in the form of cheese, cream, and butter, or be packaged and sent to supermarkets and shops. So these are two alternative steps. So make sure in your information report you include these pieces of information in your description. Okay, so this is actually a sample. Mind you, the samples that I've shown you are not perfect because every piece of text can be improved. Like what I said in the overview, although this overview is okay, if you really want to get a high score in your IELTS writing task 1, you have to produce, like what I said, a more specific overview, like by telling me the number of stages. Like, for example, the diagram outlines 5 stages, say, for example, 5 or 6 or 7 stages in milk production, including this, and that. Okay, so the introduction here, well, the overview here can be more specific. But other than this, actually, this sample does show some important language features that we can use when describing diagrams. If we look at the words here in green, okay, the words here in green, I would like to ask you a question. Which tense is it? Which tense am I using? The words begins with, are taken from, are transported to the tense. Past or present? Present. Why? Is there a reason? Why don't we use the past tense?
The milk production every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not the past action.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it will be like
Okay. Yes, I like the your use of the word every day, right? I think you've got the point that these are everyday actions, right? Or these are everyday actions. People do this, do these, all these every day or on a regular basis, right? So this is actually a good reminder on the use of tenses, right? Because we are in this type of description of processes, we use timeless present, timeless, Timeless, timeless present. Yes. Unlike the Mac description that I'm going to show you in a minute, we should keep using the simple present tense or timeless present because we are referring to everyday actions. And unlike the descriptions of charts, graphs, or tables, remember sometimes we have to use the past tense when we are talking about when we are reporting some statistics or some trends or some yes or some trends in the past, right? Then we use the past tense in that case. But here, we are using timeless present because we are referring to everyday actions. So this is just a reminder of tenses. Tenses is very important in the IELTS exam because this is also one of the areas that the examiners are commenting on when they are evaluating the sample scripts. Um, so other than the use of the timeless present, can you take a look at the words like are taken from, is collected, are applied, or are transported to. Okay, we know this is simple present tense, right? Okay, this time I have another question. Which voice are we using? Active or passive voice? Passive voice. Why?
By itself. It's
Mhm.
by workers.
Okay, maybe by workers. Okay, the production or some steps are carried out by others, right? Okay, then I have another question. Um, is it really important to mention who does the action? Mhm.
Show so they should.
Okay, good. If the graph contains, well, I mean, if the diagram contains this piece of information, that yes, you are right. We need to mention this in our information report. But uh, but what about the um? But if such information is not mentioned in the is not pointed out in the diagram, sometimes we use the passive voice just to avoid mentioning the doer of the action. Who does the action? Actually, in some cases, this is not very important. We want to stress or emphasize the action itself. So, in some cases here, the passive voice is used. Uh, but as you can see from um, from the passage here, there are two examples of mentioning the doer of the action. Look at this and look at this the second line of the third paragraph where they are milked by an automated milking machine. And also the fifth line, the milk is collected by a milk tanker. So here, the doer of the action is mentioned through a by phrase, by something, or by someone. But in some other cases, um, the doer of the action is not mentioned. So we can use the passive voice. Well, of course, it really depends on whether the diagram shows who the doer of the action is. But if the diagram shows such information, then we should include this as well in our information report. But if there's no such information available in the diagram that you can see, it, it may be better to focus more on the action itself by using the passive voice. So time is present and the use of passive voice. What about the words in blue? The initial stage, ultimately. You've seen this in the description of charts and graphs. What is the function of these words? The initial stage and ultimately. Connection. Also to connect to or to signal to readers that okay, this is step number one. I think you know that we can't write in note form in our IELTS writing task, right? We have to produce paragraphs. But to do this well, to signal clearly to the reader that this is the first point that I'm making, I can use words like the initial stage, or I can tell the reader that okay, this is the final point I'm making through the use of the word ultimately. So these are what we call language of sequences, okay, or sequence words. Okay, we first do this, and we then do this, and finally we do this. SEQ, sequence words SEQ, UENCE, and then the plural form S. As you know, because a description of a process often involves a number of steps. Some steps may not need to be done every day or regularly. So we need to we can for some actions described in the process diagram, we do need some words that denote frequency. Okay, FREQ UENCY, frequency, some words that denote frequency in order to tell a reader how frequent we need to do an action. Like the two examples I provided here, twice a day and on a daily basis. These are good words denoting the frequency of an action. Okay, let me show you two samples very quickly. On another set of handout, you can see samples B and C. Sample B is actually an example of hydroelectric power generation, and this sample actually scores a band 7. I can send you my annotation here to you through email. But because of the time limit, I think it would be better for me to show you this. This is a sample scoring band 8.5. Okay, almost full marks in the IELTS writing exam. It's about brick manufacturing. Actually, if you compare samples C with sample B, actually sample C shows a wider variety of language features. As you can see from my annotations here. You can see I'm using different colors to denote different language features. You can see the verbs being used in the timeless present form, okay, or in simple present tense, and very often the passive voice is used to put the focus on the action itself. You can also see some words highlighted in blue, showing you how we can use sequencing words. like first do this, then do that. We use these sequencing words to link or connect the sequence of different actions. But may I draw your attention to the words in red here? These are actually descriptive language that we use to describe, to point out the details concerning a process. Um, if you read the examiner comments for sample B, descriptive language can help you elaborate on each stage in the process in a more precise manner. So why is this important? If we look at sample B, the examiner comments for sample B, concerning task achievement, actually sample B is good because it scores a 7 in the IELTS exam. But one thing that the examiner suggested is that some of the points could be further extended, like what I've highlighted here. Some of the points could, however, be further extended. To do this or to solve the issue, actually you need descriptive language to help you elaborate on each part of the process diagram by giving some additional information, like what I'm doing here. Sorry, this should be in red as well. Okay, which lies below the surface of soil, blah blah blah. On a metal grid in a drying, okay, blah blah blah. At a moderate temperature or blah blah blah. These are descriptive language that we can use to give additional information about the diagram or about the processes involved in the diagram, so that we can score higher in terms of task achievement. Okay, in the IELTS writing test, apart from describing a diagram, another common task type would be to describe a map. There are three variations. You can be given one map, just one map, but this map will show you the past and present of a state, of a region, or a place. Then you have to trace the development or trace the changes involved. Apart from one map, you can be shown two maps. The two maps will show you the past and present of a school. Like, for example, a school or a place. Then you have to make comparisons, and you have to tell your reader in your information report about the changes involved after a period, after a number of years. The third type of, the third variation of this task is to show you two maps of present and future. That, like the example here, University Sports Center, the present or the present plan of the University Sports Center and the future plan for development, like after 20 years, okay, in the same sports center. Here, the use of tenses will be a bit tricky because it really depends on whether you're talking about the past, present, or future. It really depends on the which type of. There are three variations in this type of map description, right? It depends on which what kinds of map you are given. Say whether you are given a map showing whether you are given two maps showing you the past and present, or two maps showing you the present and future. But one general principle for this type of map description is that you have to show clearly the changes and developments over time. So this slide is just to show you some vocabulary that you can use to um, make your description in your information report. Some words related to buildings, facilities, trees, roads, or some words that we can use to refer to directions and positions. Okay, maybe let me show you very quickly an example of a map description. Um, It is actually a place. Well, you can see two maps here. It is actually a place in 1995 and its present state. So again, as you can see in the words in green, actually I'm using the passive voice to talk about what actions were done. But because the doers of these actions are not important, right? I omitted them. I only focused on the action itself. So I'm using the passive voice. And you can see some words highlighted in blue, just to show you readers the time period that the exact time that I'm referring to. What happened in 1995 and what happened now. And from the words in red, you can see I'm using some words that they are related to directions, like in the town's east and northeast areas. These are words that they are referring the readers to the different directions in the map. So again, you can see some descriptive language in the form of this kind of what we call prepositional phrases. Okay, again, let me show you. Let me show you one more sample. You have sample D, which is related to a comparison of two maps, right? This time is a comparison of the development of a school in 2004 and in 2024. I need to explain a bit here. This question actually appeared in the official IELTS practice materials, which was published in 2016, right? So what I mean is the question is asking candidates to compare the past of a school and the future plan of a school, right? This is the past and this is the future. This is this is a sample that score a 7.5 in IELTS. There's one suggestion. Although this is a 7.5 piece of writing, actually we do have a suggestion on the use of tenses. As you can see from the examiner comments here, the choice of tense could be more precise and consistent. What does it mean? This is actually a criticism from the examiner. The choice of tenses, like actually the choice of tenses is not consistent because, for example, when the candidate is referring to the 2024 plan to talk when the candidate is talking about the future, sometimes the candidate uses the simple present tense, but sometimes it's in the form of a modal verb will be reduced. So this is actually a very small criticism from the examiner that the tense used is not being very consistent. If you're trying to describe future plans, then it would be good to use modals. Something will happen. Something I mean the modal verb will to refer to future plans. The examiner also commented on the choice of tense. Here it's a bit tricky, right? It's a bit tricky. Um, Actually, the candidate is talking about what happened in 2004, and the candidate was referring to the diagram, to the map on the right. But have a look at the tenses. The candidate is using this present tense, which is not really appropriate because you're talking about something in the past, right? The past tense will be more appropriate. So these are the two criticisms from the examiners. But other than the use of tenses, you can see a number of uh, descriptive language that we can learn from in order to describe a graph more precisely, right? With a path leading from the main entrance to the sports field, blah blah blah, or which together with the sports field are located north. We can use these examples of descriptive language in order to make the description or comparison of a map of two maps more concrete. Okay, because time is running out, I'm going to wrap up very soon. Okay, so I think these are the things that I would like to draw your attention to when it comes to the typical language features that we can use to describe maps. Okay, I've prepared a table just to sum up what language features, I mean grammar and vocabulary that we can use when we are tackling different types of descriptions, ranging from the description of charts, graphs, the description of tables to the descriptions of diagrams and maps. Okay. And I hope the PowerPoint slides, which I can send you after the workshop, um, will show you some examples of how we can apply these typical language features when it comes to handling different types of tasks in the context of IELTS information report. Okay. Let me wrap up by saying a bit about today's workshop. I hope that after today's workshop, you have identified some grammar and vocabulary needed for your IELTS Writing Task 1. And unfortunately, we don't have time to work on two, but you can work on this. I would strongly encourage you to work on part 2. And you can send your work to me through email. You can find my email after I send you the PowerPoint materials. Then you can reply to me and send me your work. You should have another. Let me show you another set of handout very quickly. Apart from the PowerPoint slides and the samples graded by IELTS examiner, I've also prepared 4 practice tasks. You can select one of them here and practice writing your introduction. Practice writing your introduction, your overview, and the body paragraphs. And you can send a copy of your work to me for feedback. I can reply to you next week so that I can see how well you are making progress and what you might do in order to improve or strengthen your ability to write an information report. Okay. I'm also attaching a self or peer assessment checklist here. I've included a total of 12 questions, and I would encourage you to use this checklist to check whether you have done all these aspects in relation to the four domains in the IELTS writing exam. Task achievement, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, and grammatical range and accuracy. These are the four domains of your IELTS writing exam. So you can use this checklist to after you've done your work, you can use this checklist to think about whether you have achieved whether uh, how well you have achieved in relation to each of these domains. I found two videos. Actually, one of the in-person participants here asked me whether I have some online videos or online self-assess resources to recommend to learn more about IELTS Writing Task 1. And here are two of them. These two videos are made by the British Council, and they describe the key, and they highlight the key skills that you need to demonstrate in your IELTS Writing Task 1 in a very clear manner. So I will really encourage you to go and watch them on your free time. So just to remind you that I will have another workshop next Tuesday. Next time I will talk about task 2. This time I talk about task 1, so next time task 2. On the same topic, the use of grammar and vocabulary for task 2. So at the end of the thank you so much for coming to the workshop. And if you have any questions about things that you don't find very clear, you are welcome to send me an email to discuss further what your issue is.